Player 4 Podcast's first t-shirt is now on sale at tpublic.com. Ever wonder what it takes to make a good podcast? We've already done the math for you and put it on a t-shirt. Visit our storefront at tpublic.com/user/P4podcast and get yours today. That's tpublic.com/user/P4podcast.
This is the Player 4 Podcast. Join us each week as we talk about video games, entertainment, and pop culture, and bring in guests from the Rooster Teeth community. Player 4 has entered the game.
Hi, everybody. It's time for the Player 4 Podcast.
Thanks, Arnold.
Hello, I am Tristan, aka Shabrasir on the Rooster Teeth website.
I am Alex, a.k.a. Chaos Black 21.
I am Malachi, a.k.a. Suki Kiba.
I am Joseph, a.k.a. J. Dunlap, and I get to say that we have a guest, because we do. Hi, guest.
We have a guest.
Hi, host.
Hello, guest.
It's Matthew. This is Matthew Anderson, a.k.a. Matt317.
A.k.a. Santa Claus.
Oh.
Santa Claus. Yes, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a while, hasn't it?
Yeah, sure has.
We've got a few things we wanted to talk about today, besides Matt being a guest on here, so I'm hoping he'll be able to weigh in on some of these topics. We're going to talk about Warcraft, then we're going to do E3, and then we're heading straight into RTX, because that's only 2 weeks away.
E3 is kind of a big topic, right? So I figured since I watched the Warcraft movie today, that maybe I should talk about that first, so then we can just get that out of the way, and then go on to talk about E3, since our E3 episodes go over so well.
Alright, so tell us about Warcraft the movie.
When did it come out?
It came out, I think it came out 2 weeks ago? Something like that.
Really?
It's been out for a little bit, I just haven't gotten around to seeing it. The movie that came out last weekend was actually X-Men Apocalypse. And I haven't gotten around to seeing that either. But I did get around to seeing Warcraft, so what we decided to do was everyone would kind of ask me questions about Warcraft. Based on, okay. I've played Warcraft 3, I've played World of Warcraft for several years, I've read some of the books, and I've watched the movie. So then I have a good frame of reference for any questions that people listening may have about the franchise in general and about the movie specifically.
Right, but it's harder to weigh in on the fact that it's supposed to be supposedly following the story of Warcraft. If we haven't played Warcraft 1, it's hard to say, how well did it follow the story? But I do want to know, how did it look, first and foremost?
It looked amazing.
Did it look good? Amazing. So you felt that the mixture of CG and live action felt good?
Let me put it this way. Weta was involved.
Oh.
The guys who made all the armor and weapons and special effects for Lord of the Rings.
Yep.
Okay.
So it was a good mix of practical effects as well as computer graphics, which, obligatory 300 name list of animators at the end of the movie, sure. But there was quite a bit of practical effects for the orcs. Just basic things like set elements that you could tell were real. Overall, looked really great. As convincing as you can expect these days when CG is done by the lowest bidder. Pretty true to the source material. So that answers that question.
Now, well, it actually raises another question. You said that it's true to the source material, but the source material had really cartoony-looking characters, which I don't feel would fit well against, live action, actors.
I remember hearing a lot of talk back when the movie was in production and when the first trailers were coming out that, people suggested that since Blizzard has had a very well-established pedigree of very well-done CGI trailers, and some people were kind of hoping and sort of suggested that it should have been fully animated and not have any live action at all. What would you say about that, though?
Okay, well, I know exactly what you're talking about. I know that for years people have said the cinematics that Blizzard makes are just amazing. And Tristan, I will get to your question, because there is the cartoony graphics, and then there is the cinematics that they make often for crucial story points in their games. And those tend to look so well animated, as Matthew points out. They could be their own movie, and people have said that for years, that they wouldn't mind just a movie done like that. But I do want to say that the movie looks amazing because of the fact that it is a mix. It's not entirely animated, and the problem with that isn't so much the monsters, it's not so much the set pieces, it's that people don't look right when you animate them. So back to Tristan's question, because I have often heard the criticism of World of Warcraft animation kind of looking cartoony. I've heard people use that as a cop-out reason for why they never played it, as opposed to, having an actual reason, just saying, oh, well, it looks too much like a cartoon, it's a kid's game. Part of it is tradition, because the Warcraft franchise started in the 90s. and it was an RTS series, so that was kind of what it had to look like. And tradition just sort of kept it looking sort of like that, while each game will gradually increase the animation quality. But when they made World of Warcraft in the early 2000s, they wanted to kind of stick with the familiar look, because this was a beloved franchise by a lot of RTS players in the 90s into the early 2000s. They wanted it to still look like Warcraft. In the Warcraft games, you're playing as army units, and you have a hero unit occasionally who will have hero abilities related to whatever their role was, so whatever the class is. So when they made World of Warcraft, the concept was you're one of those heroes. So they use the word class. You are one of these classes. You have these unique hero abilities. When you play it, you go, oh my gosh, I have the same ability that Arthas had. Oh my gosh, I have the chain lightning that Thrall has. And that was the big appeal at the time. So they wanted it to look like Warcraft as well. Since then, they have upgraded the graphics of the game while still staying true to the overall look of the game. The movie itself, of course, as Tristan said, would not look right if they kept with the cartoony graphics. So they went more with the look that they do with their cinematics. And overall, I think they did a great job with the look.
It could be also their target audience, though, because, if it's full CG, you might not get a couple people that are not really into that kind of thing. Being the half and half might be more appealing to some people.
I do know that CG movies, no matter how well made, tend to be a little bit off-putting to certain audiences. They see an animated face and immediately think, well, either it's Jeff Bridges in Tron Legacy, or it's a cartoon.
Oh, yeah.
Several years ago, fully animated films and even fully CGI films weren't actually considered real cinematic films and could not be submitted for real cinematic awards.
Really?
And so, yeah, it was actually considered a second-class art form, and people didn't want to go see these films because they weren't real films. At least they weren't considered so by the general public, and certainly not considered so by the Screen Actors Guild.
I agree with you there, Tristan. It's the idea that if it's not a real human face, it must be a cartoon, it must be for kids, that kind of thing.
Right.
Also, sometimes animated faces are a little bit creepy to look at. I'm not saying I'm creeped out, but some people might find it creepy.
Uncanny Valley.
True, yeah. But you said that, the Warcraft games, as they progressed through, tended to hold on to their cartooniness as sort of a nostalgia, or because they'd already made their niche. But what do you have to say to those people who believe that, that is what makes Warcraft Warcraft? It chose to be cartoony because that's the niche it wanted to fill, and it allowed some of the more cartoony jokes, like when you poke a unit too many times and it says something silly to you. It would be a little more out of place if it were hyper-realistic.
Oh, definitely. That is very much true. One of the things that appealed to me about World of Warcraft, one of the many things, was the humor. Another thing about World of Warcraft is that it appeals to people with lower-end computers. So the cartoony graphics make use of the fact that there's not very many polygons involved, which means you don't have to have a top-of-the-line computer to play the game, or an incredible internet connection. I remember switching to WildStar briefly when Drunk Tanks were playing WildStar. I actually had to upgrade my video card because I just could not play it, whereas I have no problem playing other games like World of Warcraft. How about story? Was there anything about the story that you guys kind of, going into watching the trailer, were you confused about?
I've always just had a vague idea of what Warcraft was, mostly from World of Warcraft, but seeing this movie in the theater would pretty much be my first ever exposure to anything Warcraft related. So
okay, so we had a discussion previous to recording, which was, is this a spoiler heavy movie? Is this something that if you talk about it you have to specify spoiler free? And honestly, it really isn't. I would say this is a world building movie that's enjoyable in its own right, not necessarily on the same scale as Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter, but not everything has to be, right? Really anything in the movie that if I say this happens, it would be anything as close to spoiling the end of The Force Awakens, for example, or spoiling key points of the Deadpool movie when there was so much mystery around that movie. When you watch the trailer, you go, okay, well, there's humans, there's orcs, and they are fighting each other, but there's good orcs or something, and they want to help the humans, maybe, or they're asking the humans for help. Let's preface this by saying that the story of Warcraft starting out is orcs versus humans. Starts off very basic. They're establishing with this movie basically the first one, maybe almost the first two games of the Warcraft franchise, which is the idea of the orcs finding their way to this human world and making war with the humans, and the humans going, okay, what's going on? How do we fight this? Where did they come from? And then a few orcs saying, well, this war is going to ruin us. As the franchise progresses, there is a lot of storyline related to, are the orcs at war with the humans right now? Are they not? Did one side win the war and the other one didn't? Who's allied with whom? Often the reason that they can't be at peace with each other is because the allies they've made don't like each other. That's actually a big problem, because there have been times where the orcs and humans could have been at peace with each other, and their leaders actually like each other, but the orcs are allied with this faction of another race that is a mortal enemy with the faction on the human side. What I really want to laud them for is they concisely give us a reason, why are the orcs and humans fighting? We answer that pretty quickly. They answer by the end of the movie, why are they still fighting? We have an answer. We have motivations for key characters. We have characters set up for later movies. Either they became more powerful or aren't old enough to figure into the story yet. If you've never watched the movies and you're listening to this wondering if you should go watch it, because it's a great world-building movie, gives you a lot of the why for the movies that are to come.
We pointed out on the previous podcast where we talked about this, there's a very rich story in the game that I wanted to know if they were going to stay true to, which was the orcs and humans fighting as the orcs are coming over to Azeroth from the Burning Plain.
I believe Draenor was the name of that
Draenor,
world?
yeah, Draenor.
Yeah,
Draenor,
named after the
you.
Draenei.
Right, coming over from Draenor and raiding the humans to end them being at war, and then later finding that there are certain factions among the orcs who are actually fleeing Draenor and the evil overlords who are trying to control them there and seeking refuge in Azeroth, and it's these that attempt to form an alliance with the humans, and where all this trust, distrust, war, not war, back and forth kind of comes from. And is that something that they play up, or did they go a completely different direction with the story?
Now, I just have to stop you. Are the burning plains next to the freezing plain?
No, I called it that because I couldn't remember the name. It's called Draenor, and it's the home of the Burning Legion, which is led by the Draenei.
You guys were here already? Yes, before now. Okay, yes, Tristan, they're very much staying true to the concept that the orcs come to find glory and conquer the humans and whatnot, because their world is no longer that great because of the war that they have been constantly at. There are some orcs that don't like this oppressive regime that has been in charge of the orcs, and they want no part of it, so they want to save their people and want to see if the humans will help them. The bits that they change is simply timeline-wise. And the reason for this, I thought about it after I watched the movie. I did the math on it, and I realized that what they're trying to do is cut to the chase. So they're trying to do as much in this one movie as they can. At the same time that they're setting up this animosity between the orcs and the humans, they're also setting up a few key players on both sides, bad guys, good guys, neutral parties involved. They also introduced a young character that plays heavily into the Warcraft franchise later, and actually wasn't even supposed to be around at this point. They just wanted to introduce this character so that when they grew up, they would be this big player.
His name wouldn't happen to rhyme with the word crawl, which he does as an infant.
Yes.
Would it?
However, he hasn't been named that yet. I see what they're doing. What they're wanting to do is set up, here's this war, here's these characters, here's a bad guy they're going to have to deal with. And then the next movie, probably they're just going to deal with them, right? And then the movie after that, then we get Rhymes with Crawl's story. His parents, they figure into the story in a way that's slightly different from the books, but they serve a purpose, they have a goal, they have motivations, and they're just trying to survive and make a world for their son.
Personally, I want to see a movie all about Rhymes with Barfus.
Yes, Rhymes with Barfus. I anticipate that being the fourth movie. Those who don't know what Barfus is, Rhymes with Barfus, this is a fallen hero character that is a huge figure in the Warcraft lore. So
You ever have that, you have to really scratch an itch, King?
Okay, yeah, sometimes you do have to scratch an itch and makes you feel like a king. But
Joseph, you said that you were thinking that would be somewhere in the fourth movie of these Warcraft movies. How many movies are you expecting them to make?
my mom actually asked me this too. She said, well, how many movies can they make? And I said, well, Mom, they're still making stories. And I'll tell you that too, Alex. Well, Mom, they're still making stories.
It's
I do not want to think of Alex.
Just make sure that you wash behind your
They're still
ears.
making expansions to World of Warcraft, and each expansion adds to the story of the franchise. And also, what they do with the novels is they retcon occasionally, and they also just fill in holes. There will probably always be a story, but as far as how many stories I anticipate, Alex, let me do some math here, and you guys chat amongst yourselves.
you know my answer is to it. It's until they see that they can't make enough money off of it.
Yeah, that's pretty much how everything's going these days.
They'll keep going until they can't.
Why was Joseph's mother old and British?
Just make sure that you wash behind your
There's
ears.
still
That's just how I see all mothers.
Wow.
They're just doting and British.
Wait, did you make my mom British
Son, I am offended.
while I was gone counting?
Definitely. It was his Hermione voice, actually.
Okay, so I did the math, and if my math is correct, they could probably make about 12 movies with current source material without the movies being too stretched out or not having enough source material.
They're going to make 10 movies. One of them is going to be too bloated. Another one is not going to have enough, and then they're going to run out of fans.
You're not nice, Tristan.
You're mean.
I'm realistic.
Should we move on to some positive then?
I guess I can give my final verdict on Warcraft. We can move on to E3. So if you're curious about the movie, if you think, as Tristan had a concern, that it won't make sense to you if you've never played the games, it doesn't matter. Because they explain what's important, they explain the story beats, they explain the faction, they explain the characters and their motivations, and that's what the movie's designed to do. Whether there are inside jokes, as Tristan also expressed concern about, there actually is 1, 2, 3 Easter eggs, and that's it. And that's simply, oh, it's a thing. Whether it's a good movie, it's good. I'd say with all the movies we have these days that are just popcorn, filler, action flicks, you should go watch this and see if you can get emotionally invested in the characters and see if you can get behind the factions and the motivations. And look out for the next movies, because they do intend to make as many as Malachi says they will make money making.
Yes, I do hope it's very successful, and I will go see it as soon as I can. Thanks for sharing that with us.
So E3, Matt was very excited to come on and talk about E3.
Yes, Matt has been very excited about E3. I only know anything that's going on there because he's been posting all over Facebook about it.
Oh, yeah.
What we're going to do here in this episode is we're going to talk not just about everything that happened. We're not going to write off a list and say, here's all the things that happened, because chances are if you're listening to this, you either don't care or you already know. What we're going to do is talk about what we're most excited about. But since Matthew's the guest, he gets the first and last word on this.
All right, where to begin? Well,
First,
I mostly focused more on the main console companies, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, even though Nintendo didn't really have much. But I did catch glimpses of EA and Ubisoft's as well, and partly Funhouse's live stream of the Ubisoft stream while doing the drinking game, and James was just going off about how amazing Trey Parker and Matt Stone were, and how they're geniuses in a drunken rant. It's just, if you can find the stream on Funhouse's channel, I'd recommend it. It's hilarious. But yeah, I guess the main one I kind of wanted to looked at the most were, like I said, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo.
Which are you most excited? What game are you most excited to see that was revealed at E3, or maybe they showed more of?
Most of them I kind of already saw coming, partly because they were kind of teased beforehand, and also just from common sense. But the ones I'm kind of most looking forward to are definitely Halo Wars 2. Then also, let's see, Gears of War 4, Horizon Zero Dawn look really cool as well.
I did like the look of Horizon Zero Dawn myself.
Oh yeah, and cannot forget, Hideo Kojima's magical appearance on a golden light staircase to a roaring audience with him proclaiming, "I'm back."
Oh, boy.
And of course his trailer.
He's so crazy.
Yes, and also his a teaser trailer for his new game away from Konami, which also has Norman Reedus in it, called Death Stranding. Have you all seen most of these trailers?
I saw a little bit of the trailer you were just talking about with CGI Norman Reedus' butt and the disappearing baby?
Yes.
Is that a separate project from the canceled like Resident Evil with Norman Reedus? Or is it an evolution of that project?
Either or. I guess that once Silent Hills was scrapped, they sort of moved both Norman and Hideo to like another project, which I don't know how far in development this one was, and they don't really specify when it'll come out either. But yeah, it looks really interesting. Just gotta find out what the heck it's about.
Okay, so what is this game called with Norman Reedus?
Death Stranding.
Okay, and then you said you were excited for Halo Wars 2. I said on Twitter, well, I hope this is for PC, and you were saying, oh yeah, it is. And I'm like, sweet.
It is.
Because it really was unintuitive Halo Wars on a console. I never ended up playing it. Speaking of Halo Wars 2, apparently Stuart, who's going to be our guest on the RTX panel, was doing a short stream of, well, we talked about this, come on, Halo Wars 2 beta. He was streaming it, and he put some highlights up on his YouTube channel.
That's unusual. Usually during betas, they say you're not allowed to stream or record it.
I think it might be an open beta at this point.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
there's a beta up right now. It's only on Xbox One right now, but maybe they'll have a PC beta soon. But actually, that kind of reminds me of how Joseph was wondering if you could play it on PC, because that was another big announcement at the Microsoft conference. Essentially, it's a new paradigm shift of you being able to play all the Xbox games on just about any platform, whether it be on Xbox or PC. If you own an Xbox One game digitally, or in some cases, if you buy it physically, it'll come with a digital copy. You can also then use it to play it on a Windows 10 PC, free of charge.
And you'll be able to play online with people that are on the platforms too, right?
Cross-connectivity, just being able to play on multiple platforms. That was a huge selling point that they stressed at the conference.
Sounds more like a huge selling point for Windows 10.
Yeah.
Which is struggling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I already have Windows 10, and it still works good for me.
I was part of an exchange recently on Twitter where someone was saying, well, the downside of playing a PC game is you have to get Windows 10. And I'm like, what is wrong with Windows 10? I've got it. I was allowed to upgrade for free, and I have had little to no problems, and all the problems I have with Windows 10 get smoothed out really quickly with a patch of some kind that gets automatically downloaded without me knowing about it. So back to E3. So Matthew, you've told us what you are excited for, which is Halo Wars 2, the Norman Reedus game.
Gears of War 4, which actually comes out later this year. That was another point, another game where they pushed the play anywhere like moniker. Like you'd be able to cross-play with both players on the PC and Xbox.
Okay, I know what you're talking about now, Matt. It's the cross-platform playing with other people thing. So I thought you were saying, oh yeah, well, all our Xbox games will be released for other consoles. No, I remember what you're talking about because they're going to do that for Minecraft now. Currently, you can do it with tablet and PC on Minecraft. I don't know if you guys have heard about this, but you'll be able to do cross-platform Minecraft soon, which is quite exciting.
Oh yeah, I saw
cross-platform Minecraft. I can play with Xbox peoples.
Yes.
Yeah.
With Xbox, when you're playing, because I've never actually played it on Xbox, is it hosted from the Xbox or is it hosted on live on one of their servers?
It's hosted from the Xbox, and I'll tell you how I know. Because on the RT podcast, Jack had a story where he was building a huge project on Joel's console, and Joel fell asleep, and then the console timed out and didn't save everything Jack had done.
Okay. I was hoping that maybe it would have like a server that you could host from there, but which would make it so I could create something on the Xbox and then just access it from the computer.
I don't know about that. You might be able to. You should look into that.
Another good one was Sea of Thieves, and also Dead Rising 4 looked really funny and cool.
Was there another particular game that you were really excited about seeing?
Just from the PlayStation 1, there was also Resident Evil 7 Biohazard, which some people are kind of mixed about, but honestly, this still looks really cool. It's a new Resident Evil game, but it's sort of has more of a PT feel to it. First person, exploring, that same kind of style.
Though I assume that unlike PT, you're actually at some point going to be given a weapon to defend yourself.
Oh yeah. And they also had a VR support for it for the PlayStation 4.
That's why they went first person. That makes sense.
Yes.
I don't know how much information they released, but you may remember that Resident Evil 6 release was like a ghost release almost. Like, I didn't even know it had released. It got so little hype, and it got so little acclaim after it released. I would consider it a flop. So, do you expect that 7 will kind of make up for that?
Can't hurt. Like, it's different. So
Yeah,
not
really,
anything
different can be kind of a Hail Mary. It's like, we've got nothing to lose here. Different could either be, oh, I don't like it because it's different, type. Or it could be, oh, I'm going to try this out. This is different. This is not as bad as 6 was. Maybe this will be good.
Stop complaining on the internet, Joseph. We're not listening.
It's all me. Every single account that you ever see complaining is just me. I'm a very basic man.
Trollstuff pun lap.
Okay, let's move on to other people now. Malachi.
I haven't really got to watch much at E3 at all, because I was watching RVB and just busy normal life stuff, but I did see a bit on Zelda. So
Yes.
the new Zelda Breath of the Wild looked pretty interesting, and it's going to be a very survival oriented in the beginning. I don't know much about it because I only seen tidbits of it, but it looks like it's pretty interesting. It's going to be a very open world thing.
Yes, apparently you're going to be making food, cooking food so that you can eat it and heal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was noticing they were
Shrooms.
they seem to be bringing in more MMO kind of mechanics, which I'm interested to see how they play them up. What I really enjoyed seeing in the video was the more inventive ways they've added for you to fight certain mobs, like when they showed him pushing boulders off a cliff, a group of enemies, rather than just running in, sword drawn.
Don't forget, he can jump now without an item.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need Rock's Feather or an Edge to automatically make me jump.
Nope, just press a button.
Maybe
I can bunny hop away from enemies.
Revolutionary!
maybe you'll get an item that will make you jump farther.
Like a Rock's Cape.
Of course, another big selling point for the game was just how vast and open
Mm-hmm.
like the environment was. It's mostly solitary.
It can be dangerous, though, that kind of style, because I had an instance with a friend when I got Xenoblade Chronicles X, and the where you can go is controlled by the enemies you'll face, and the enemies, because you can walk into an area and just get smacked instantly and die. That apparently is going to be the same with Zelda, is you're going to be able to be controlled by the environment on where you can go, based on, like, you walk in an area with mobs that are ungodly strong and just going to whack you in the face and you're going to be dead. And he hated the game because he just kept dying and it didn't penalize you at all. So I'm hoping that it doesn't deter people, that openness at all.
Well, that's what Fallout does, too. They start you out at one corner, and then if you even try to, like, go all the way down to the very opposite corner, the enemies there are at a level where you'll get your butt kicked.
Instantly.
Yeah.
That would be... I gotta cut in here and say, that would be really odd if they implemented something like that in a Zelda game, because there's only so far been one Zelda game where you had level, and that was Zelda 2, The Adventure of Link, which was awful, where you actually had to level up in order to fight enemies that were stronger than you. Every other Zelda game in the entire franchise has had similar strength enemies everywhere, but you needed certain tools to fight some of them.
Well, that's probably what's going to be.
it's doing
Rather
this.
than level-wise, it's tool-wise. It's the same concept, though.
But
Yeah.
I mean, that would mean that there are these kinds, but it would be more organic if that were the case anyway, because then these enemies could be spread anywhere in the world. In the starting area, you could run into an enemy that you couldn't fight because you didn't have the right tool, but it wouldn't be too strong to kill. I think
You
that-
just
I
won't be
think
able
that-
to
I
kill
think
it because it's too strong because of its ability.
Yeah, but so what? It would feel a lot less stilted.
Well, it might be, and it might
There's
anger some
precedence.
fans, but any kind of change or new improvements might be welcome, since one of the biggest complaints about Skyward Sword was, even though I still like it now just for what it is, a lot of the complaints was that at that point it kind of stuck with the same formula for so long that it started to feel tired and dated.
All right, Alex, your turn. What are you most excited for from E3?
I'd have to say I'm most excited about Recore. They showed it actually last E3. That was the first time that they showed it. Been a whole year. They show it again now with a different trailer. This time actually showing off some of the bot companions that you can use along your journey. it looks interesting to me. I'm even more excited for it. It's now finally has a September 13th release date, I believe.
Yep.
I mean, it's got some good names behind it. I think people who worked on like Mega Man. Are
Shinji
part of it.
Inafune.
Yeah, that's what I'm most excited about, and I'm also excited about the fact that Halo Wars 2 is coming out on my birthday, actually, next year, February 21st. In case people haven't heard, 343 Industries is going to be at RTX this year, and so I'm assuming that they'll have playable demos and stuff of Halo Wars 2.
That'd be cool.
Well.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
That's the game I'm most interested in. I kind of checked out some of the other games, but Recore has always been the one that I've been looking towards since last E3.
Okay, so Tristan gets to go last. So I'm gonna go now. And what I'm excited about is, as I've said, being able to play Halo Wars 2 on the PC. And I really want to take an in-depth look at what they've shown at E3 of that. I want to take my time, just absorb everything, because I did the same thing with Halo Wars before I found out I couldn't play it. I was very sad, but I was getting up on everything that they were doing. I was looking at concept art. I was looking at all the gameplay. So I'm going to do the same thing I'm going to take my time with Halo Wars 2 and just absorb everything. Another thing that looked kind of cool and we haven't talked about is the new God of War game. And they gave us a trailer, and he's fighting Norse gods. He's bearded. He's old man Kratos now, and he's got a son. And so it's like a father-son story as they take on the Norse gods, and I'd like to know the contrived reason for it, of course. I played through the first 2 to 3 God of War games. I didn't get to play any after that because it's primarily a PlayStation franchise, so I was borrowing one at the time.
Weren't the other ones on, like, handheld or something crazy? Because I thought there were only 3.
Okay, so I think the first
There are
2
two
were...
on handheld.
There might have been one on the PSP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the reason
There are
I didn't
two
get to
of
play
Or
that one.
or the Vita. I can't remember which one, but yeah, there was at least one on the handheld.
No, actually, there was 2 on PSP and a prequel game for PS3 called Ascension. I have the first 3 God of Wars, and I still been meaning to play them.
Well worth playing, a lot of fun, very challenging.
Mm-hmm.
Everything you're looking for in just a fun hack and slash puzzle solving.
Well, I'm actually excited to hear about that they're doing another one. I didn't know that.
Tristan, your turn. What are you excited about?
Honestly, from what I've seen from E3, I'm most excited about Zelda and Horizon. Those were the ones that really caught my eye, and they're the ones that I paid the most attention to. Horizon, especially, just because I really like the setting, and I want to see what they do with it. Horizon's sort of set so far in the future that humanity has destroyed itself with its own advancement. It looks to me like technology advanced so far that machinery, robotics and AI became self-aware and are now self-replicating and self-upgrading, and humanity has been knocked back to the Stone Age, and you appear to play as a tribeswoman, who carries a bow and a club, fighting to survive out in the wilderness against wild robots.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's really kind of cool. You can see how a lot of, you're so far in the future that a lot of the world has returned to its wilderness state. Cities are overgrown, and forests have come in and infringed upon what was originally inhabited society. And everywhere in between is inhabited with what they call corrupted machines, which are they're like animalistic robots that seek to destroy any humans they find. And so you kill them and scavenge pieces from them to upgrade your weaponry and to survive, find food in the wilderness. So I thought that seems like a really cool setting, and I want to see what they do with it.
Very quickly, 2 new consoles were announced, like Xbox consoles. One of them was a slim model, like it's about 40% smaller than the current Xbox One model. It's also 4K capable. I know for sure what is 4K capable and VR capable is Project Scorpio, which was pretty much the last big announcement. It's sort of like a very highly upgraded, beefed up version of the Xbox One. That one was what really blew me away.
So
And
Project Scorpio souped up VR Xbox One.
Yes, and 4K capable.
Mm-hmm. Sounds exciting.
This particular Xbox One is set for holiday 2017.
Okay, look out for that next year around the holidays. We're going to move away from E3 talk and move on to something else. And Alex, you get to transition us there. Where are we going?
We are going to RTX 2016. Back to it as we prepare to have our first Player 4 panel at an RTX event. This special tidbit that we're going to release now, for those who are interested, is that we are planning on having a special video at the panel that is roughly about 5 minutes, that kind of is in a similar feel to the Best of P4 video. If you have seen, we did release it last year, and we actually made it specifically for RT SideQuest Presents community content with the Angels at the Alamo Draft House last year. We're pretty excited to come up with another video similar to that and show it off to you guys.
Yes. If you did not get to go to that, which there's plenty of you who didn't get to go to RTX last year or to the community content specifically, which was a screening of just demo reels, you might say, just best of reels of just content creators in the Rooster Teeth community. And you can go to our YouTube channel and you will find our best of, which is the short version that we put at the screening, we sent to the screening, but there's also an extended version. What we did with that was we found our best moments from that year. We had only been podcasting and Minecrafting for about 5 to 6 months at that point. We have a similar concept this year. This year, you're going to be part of making it. This is going to be a sort of best of, but we're going to call it the top 5 moments of P4 2016. And we're going to give you a poll where you can choose from our favorite moments of the past year, from RTX 2015 until RTX 2016, that you want to see in our best of video that we are going to release premiere at our panel. So look out for that. Look on our Twitter at Player4Podcast. You will find the poll, and the poll will be left open for as long as humanly possible. And you'll be allowed to vote for multiple options. We want to know what your favorite 5 moments are from RTX 2015 until RTX 2016 that has occurred in Player4 Podcast, P4 Bytes, and P4 Craft.
But Joseph, the crowd says, what if one of their favorite moments isn't listed?
They should probably tell us, and then we'll just count those votes, but chances are it will be. We'll get that done.
I think that's a good podcast right there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So we say goodnight, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Matthew, you know what you get to do now, right? Because you're the guest?
Good night, audience.
Oh, that was short and sweet, Matthew. I liked that.
Goodbye.
Good
Good night,
night.
everybody.
Yay! Yeah. So,
Cue Player 4 podcast theme.
the theme doesn't play at the end in this
I
podcast.
know.
Uh-oh.
Also, the
Malachi
theme
wants an outro.
the theme is not
I haven't.
The theme is
Oh,
wob
by the
wob
way.
wob.